Okay.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting of the Coventry Technical Review Committee to order. It is Tuesday, October 15th at 1:33 p.m. The first order of business is a determination of a quorum. I do note we have a quorum of the TRC present. The second order of business is emergency evacuation plan. Just head out that door right there and right out the building. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes for the September 16th, 2024 meeting. This is the only thing that we take votes on. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes? Do I have a motion? So moved. Motion from Mr. McGee. Second. Second from Chief Brown. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. For the agenda today, we have 3 items. And no, I think, are you all applicants here? There's no members of the public? Good to know. We have 3 items. I know that there is an intent for the applicant for the first item of business 4.1 to join us. He's not here right now. Unless there's someone that is a representative of the 9,000 square foot industrial building on Flat River Road present. All right, we're going to take the agenda out of order. We'll first handle agenda item 4.2, which is the proposed commercial office and contractor units on 72 Harkney Hill Road. We're going to go around and do a row of comments. You can feel free to pull the chair with all the applicants from my team. Andrew, I don't know if you're expecting to read, Brian. Hey, Brian, I'm definitely. You guys can feel free to join us. The way we do it is we're going to go around with our comments. There's an opportunity if you guys have questions, if you want to provide any supplementary information, that's fine. But generally, we're doing the comments for the record. All right. So just to make it clear what item of business we're on. This is 4.2 proposed commercial office and contractor units. This is for comments to the Planning Commission. It's headed for a master plan for a major land development associated dimensional variances on Harkney Hill Road. The applicant proposes to develop 1 commercial office building and 2 equipment storage buildings for contractor use with development occurring in phases. The applicant requires dimensional variances for loading spaces, for minimum distance between driveways. And I would note that this may also need a variance for buffer, but landscape buffer. The applicant is also seeking a reduction in the number of required parking spaces. Why don't we first go around the room with just a round of introductions, and then we'll do comments next. So I'm Doug McLean. I'm the administrative officer and the planning director and the chair of the TRC. And we'll go to you next.
Hi, I'm Kevin McGee, Director of Public Works.
Rick Heiss, Chief of Police in Coventry.
Alex Berardo, Principal Planner.
Joe Levesque, Town Engineer.
Josh Chase, Planning Tech.
Frank Brown, the Fire Chief.
And then on this one, we do a printout of the comments. If anyone that emailed them wants a printout of what they sent, they're probably in your packets. Who would like to lead off with their comments on this particular application? Anyone?
You want to go? Mine's easy. Mine's not as lengthy as yours.
All right, go ahead.
Just the limited fire department access, request no gate between phases 1 and 2.
Okay.
So mine are in regards to the narrative, development standards and permits, requested variances, section 255-1210C1 loading spaces. Where is the provided loading space for phase 1? I see 2 spaces identified in the conceptual layout plan for phase 2, but none for phase 1. Next one, section 255-1210C2, additional loading space. Engineering takes no exception to the requested reduction. Section 255-1220C, table 12.3, parking use. Phase 1, 30 spaces required and 30 provided, 17 painted and 13 unpainted. Engineering supports proposing 30 painted or a reduction request for 17 painted. Please note that a couple of the unpainted parking spots need to be removed. They block access to the gate. Next comment, section 255-1220C, table 12.3 parking use, phase 2, 40 spaces required and 40 provided inside buildings. Engineering supports a reduction request. Current proposal of 5 vehicles inside each unit is not realistic. Next comment, section 255, 1230D, table 12.8, minor arterial road, Harkney Hill Road. Engineering does not support the provided 36 feet between the proposed secondary driveway and the Dollar General parking lot entrance. Final comment, section 255, 1230D, table 12.8, principal arterial, Gooseneck Hill Road. Engineering supports the provided 66 feet between the proposed primary driveway and the Dollar General parking lot entrance. All I got.
Thanks, Joe. Alex, you're up for planning, right?
Yep. All right, planning's comments are as follows. The plan set submitted for this phase of review does not depict the conditions which the applicant described in its zoning narrative as warranting relief as dimensional variances and or waivers. A revised site plan that accurately depicts the applicant's proposal must be submitted for review. Next, planning staff continues to seek clarity on the parking and storage issues related to the two 6,000 square foot garage / storage buildings. As without this information, it will be difficult to recommend an appropriate level of reduction in the number of required parking spaces. Although the applicant has labeled these buildings as part of phase 2 on the site plan, the use and design of the buildings and site conditions around them must be confirmed for town review as part of this immediate review. Alternatively, the applicant could consider deferring the phase 2 portion of this development to a separate application in the future. Next, regarding the applicant's dimensional variance request for substandard distance between driveways. Planning staff has concerns with this variance request and recommends consolidating the two proposed driveways on Harkney Hill Road to a single curb cut serving both phases of development. Planning staff refers the applicant to previous guidance at the pre-application stage, as well as Article 13, Section J1, Section B of the subdivision regulations, which states in part that the applicant shall provide combined access drives to adjacent uses within the proposed development. Per section 255-17-1730 of the zoning code, planning staff believes additional dimensional variances are required for minimum landscape buffers from abutting uses. That would be 40 feet for commercial uses, the Dollar General, and 30 feet for industrial uses, which would be ProScape landscaping, when the subject parcel hosts an industrial use. So just note that in this case where both commercial and industrial uses are proposed to coexist on the same subject parcel, it's the more intensive use category that serves as the frame of reference when calculating the buffers. Staff does not have heavy concerns with considering a variance relative to the landscape buffers in this case. Next, the property is within the special planning overlay district and is required to follow the standards in section 255-5-530 of the zoning code, or alternatively seek variances. Building elevations / renderings will be required at the preliminary plan stage. And lastly, a report or statement demonstrating the proposed use will be compliant with Article 7 Industrial Performance Standards of the zoning code will be required at the preliminary plan stage.
Thanks, Alex. Chief?
For this one, I had for traffic safety, consider one entrance and exit on to the commercial buildings on Harkney Hill Road. Just because you might have vehicles turning against each other, causing issues.
Thanks, Chief.
Can you repeat that one again?
Harkney Hill Road, the two versus two entrances have one, because what happens is you can have one turn left, another one turn right.
Yeah, I just wanted Harkney Hill to be an exit only. I wanted to come in off of Nooseneck. Like, and then I just wanted to use the, for the other, you're talking the other proposing driveway.
There's two driveways.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, because one I just wanted to use as an exit. So they would be able to get the light without having to cross the lanes of traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Director McGee?
Yeah, mine's a little bit different from that. I agree with the consolidating the driveway openings on Harkney Hill Road. That was one of my questions, but planning chief and both addressed it. But I would suggest putting sidewalks, concrete sidewalks along Harkney Hill Road, like on the front of the property in relation to two crossings coming across the street. They're gonna be dumping their people onto that side of the street with their crosswalk, and it should meet the Family Dollar, whatever Dollar Tree store that is, so that people are not walking across your entrance without having a sidewalk. And concrete driveway entrance. That's all I have.
Director. So that concludes all of the comments that are on the project at this point. I mean, that's essentially where we memorialize as comments heading towards the planning commission. As you guys know, this was not submitted in time to be on the planning commission's agenda for October. It's heading for November. But I think we're in a place where, you know, there might be a few design changes to consider and the discussion to be had about where there's comfort on certain elements, where we might want a design change on others. At this point, I mean, just if you guys have pieces of information you wanted to relay, response, questions, this is the chance we can get into that.
Yeah, I do. I have, I'd like to go through the site plan at least, and it might address a few of the comments.
Please.
I have a.
Yeah, please, do what you need to do.
This one.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine with me, Glenn.
Ready to go? I'm still pulling it up.
That's fine.
So it sounds like everyone's pretty familiar with the site, but just real quick. This is Smith Hill Road, Parking Hill Road, the Dollar General. So this is the parcel right here. It's 2.2 acres. It's a pretty flat site. We do know that the soils are pretty good out here. I actually did soil evaluations for the septic system for the Dollar General, sand and gravel. I talked to him today. So we put this plan set together for the master plan submission. And I heard some of the comments, and I just wanted to make a few points here. So Mr. Barber approached us to help him out. He owns this parcel, this land here, just recently purchased it. And he currently has an oil delivery business, and he has a business that installs underground tanks and removes underground tanks. He's got a lot of trucks, a lot of equipment, he has some employees. Now, right now, he is located in Coventry, but the site is just too small to house all of his trucks and equipment. He has them all over the place, he was telling me. So he's planning on putting this building here, here for his vehicle, truck storage and equipment, really. Now we did provide, he does have a full set of plans that were provided for the building. We did include a few of them. They're not full renderings, but it shows, these are some of the excerpts from the plan set that was provided to him of this. It's a metal storage building. It's going to be blue in color. And it's going to have some overhead doors. So it's you know, pretty basic roof line. This is a view from the side here. And then this would be a view without the roof, but just of all the overhead doors that he's planning to have. So that's the reason why we have a little extra wider, wide drive aisle here and here. So it's a current business that he has, and he knows how many employees that he has, how many parking spaces he needs. I mean, we can strike these in the back to meet the zoning ordinance, but really doesn't need it, you know, but he would like this paved area and this gravel area to just for turning and moving his vehicles around. The reason, and we do have the list of variances on the site plan, which is the same ones that we're requesting. So, you know, his main driveway would be off of Newsnack Hill Road. We are proposing a right turnout only and a full entrance in, because there is a left turn lane here for the traffic signal that does extend. We do need a DOT permit for both roadways. So that's something that we would, you know, at the next step, final design step that we would be working on. I mean, I don't think DOT would like us to have a driveway where this is a full exit out and to cross those lanes to get to the traffic signal. That's why we were proposing this driveway here. And it's a very low traffic generator. It's going to be like 10, 15 trucks that that leave a day and that come in the afternoon, and at least half of those are gonna be this way. So that's like, say 7 to 10 going this way. This is so I guess our thought was, this is a very low traffic generator, a couple of trucks in the morning. That's gonna be leaving, and the reason they would leave the secondary driveway to either go west on Parking Hill Road, so they wouldn't have to go to the intersection, or they'd go to the intersection and go north on Mooseneck Hill Road, so they wouldn't have to cross those lanes. I guess the thought was, he only needs a portion of this land, so there's other land here that's available for a very similar use. It would be equipment storage for machinery, maybe.
My thought was is, because in the winter time, we do all the oil, and then in the summertime, I'm more in the tank replacement and the trucking and that stuff, where I'd be able to store the oil trucks down there, giving me more room in my main office and building for the dump truck, because during the summer, we're hauling with 10-wheelers and trailer dumps. And in the winter times, the only time we use the oil truck, so we store them from June all the way till September again. So they can stay in their separate parking out of our area where we still have the work area.
I would think
That was more for a storage than it was for any type of usage.
Were you thinking that this would be your use?
Yeah, probably. That was my beginning. And then if I had some extra space, maybe be able to use it somewhere else. Or, if we ever did get into, hey, I'm not using one of the garages, and if I can generate a little income with rental or something, maybe be able to rent some out. But part of it, when I thought of it, it was more for switching summer to winter. I would store some of my stuff in one during the summer and switch it out for the winter, because those buildings wouldn't be used that much down there except for just storage. They'd be heated and pretty much it. There wouldn't be a usage. It'd be more storage and heat, just to keep the equipment out of the weather over the time it sits.
I don't think that there's concerns on our end. Sorry, I don't mean to jump into it. I don't think there's concerns on our end with the traffic generation at all. I think that the concerns are mostly just, trying to consolidate and pick a curb cut on parking to go with. It sounds like there's a mix between wanting these two sites to relate to each other, and Andrew, hang on a second, Andrew. And Andrew having control of some of it and wanting to rent some of it out. In our mind, we really have, the two sites kind of have to work together. It's almost as if you want to treat them as if they're separate properties, and the way our code says that, hey, we don't want them to have a lot of extra curb cuts. Even if it's not high traffic, it's really more about introducing this concept that, there's additional points to come on and off. I don't think we have a problem at all with where you guys are headed with parking. I don't think you need to be striping the ones that you don't think you really need. That's not even really a variance. That's like,
Yeah.
it's by our code, the way we frame it is that the town engineer, Joe, and with his recommendation, the planning commission can just consider a reduction to the amount of parking on the site. I think we don't see this as being a high parking generator site, but I think the instructions to you guys was, hey, give us a little narrative. What's the practical parking need you're gonna need for both the two uses? And then we're gonna consider kind of, having it in front of Joe, make sure that he feels whatever you're providing, but we don't want you to show spaces as spaces you don't really want, but they're still on the plan. We'd rather have them not on the plan than let's just firm up, hey, we're gonna reduce your parking here. But we do need some clarity on some of these issues, like, how are we doing parking for the storage units? Andrew, if you were renting one out, these are oftentimes contractors, right? They come in, they might have a truck that's in there, but a lot of equipment's being stored in there, and maybe they need some helpers, and maybe they leave a car parked on the site while they take a business truck out. Maybe there's 2 cars parked on the site. We'd like to hear from you guys. How many parking spaces do you think each unit might need? Based on just a practical interpretation of how you're going to use them. And then we can go from there. But if you want parking spaces there, I think we need to show them outside of the units. It's probably not practical to think that each of these units is just going to house 6 cars. But we're willing to work with you, but we just need to say, okay, are we parking a couple of sites in the driveway bays right in front of them? If so, show it to us. I think fire would be interested to know if you're parking cars in front of the bays. I just want to know I have enough access in and around the building. So those are the issues we kind of want to vet out. I think clearly there's a little, we don't have an issue with the concepts, but there's some design tweaks in my mind to just, vet a few of these things out, show the parking in the right spot, get it to a number we're all comfortable with, and then make sure we know how the site works with that. That's just my quick feedback. The other guys might have other things to say.
I mean, that makes sense. I think our initial thought was to Excuse me if I may.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
finish.
Yeah, I thought it was to treat it as two different parcels. That's why we had two different driveways, but I understand Tom's concerns.
So if you want to treat it as one.
Yep.
So say if we move this building back, eliminate this driveway, then I make access
That's
right in.
perfect.
That's a great site. visit.
Do it that way.
We have no concerns. with
I was
that.
just gonna suggest that.
Yeah, so I'll. pull
And
that
maybe
one
put a
back.
sliding gate,
Yeah, that's what
that
I'll do,
way.
I'd have an
so
automatic.
this way you could have it go to the left. And
Yeah.
this way your guys could just have a keypad or a fob or whatever. and
Yeah,
open
it
that
also will
gate.
stop people from getting in where I keep everything in a cage, so like I don't.
That's an easy change. Andrew, I know you're not looking to build that right away,
No.
but I would recommend, I mean, putting it on the page now saves you from having to
That's
go
why
through
I
a
think
three-step
that-
process in the future.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna be held to you have to build it, but if you do wanna build it, you don't wanna be held to, I'm going through the process again.
Yeah.
You got the site in front of us, you're doing all your engineering, I recommend doing it. I think shifting that building over, creating one curb cut, showing how you wanna do your parking, maybe it's like a couple of spaces in front of each bay. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of concerns with that.
I would probably do one building first, like, so I'd move this one, so I would have the driveway in, that building would probably be the first step, and then if I need the second one, that's how I kind of. So if we move that one back, do our thing with the sliding gate, we do have option to put that one building up first. And then if we need the second one, we can always go into the second one later on.
Yep, and then you got loading spaces shown on there that technically we're good to give you relief there unless you think you need loading.
We don't
docks.
need it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, so we would kind of hear you out on that. I don't think we have a concern with that either, so. You know, mostly it gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of arrange your site without trying to pigeonhole a few things in. But Mr. McGee,
Yeah, I just want Mr. Barber to confirm, I do not have any oil storage.
No, there's no
tanks.
storage, just the trucks,
Uh-huh.
you know, that's the same thing as what we have here, no storage, just tank.
Yeah, Richard's oil.
Yeah.
are there any other concerns with that loose idea to shift that building? The one that is on the, I guess it would be the easterly side of the site, farther to the east. Create one curb cut. Does that seem like a reasonable design to everyone here?
Yes.
Great. Yep. And then,
So then the only thing we'll just have to come through and then have an entrance.
pretty much, I mean, that's the thing is, I know you might be, for you wanna kind of to some degree treat these as separate, but to be honest, it's better
Yeah.
just to wrap your arms around the fact that, hey, it's one site. If you wanna have some arrangement of gating, because you might eventually seek like giving someone else control of it or renting many
Well, not
out.
even that, I just wanted, so I can keep the equipment in the back at night, like, you know, I just need a cage area for this area here.
Understood,
just,
yeah, yeah.
However, I can configure it to work with
No,
that,
and-
in that extra exit, you know, is how.
Joe, for storage of outdoor equipment, would you be good if that's not paved?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's areas of the site, you might even reduce some pavement depending on how you get there, I think the big thing is we need to know that fire can get around the buildings to their satisfaction. Right now, I don't think that there's a concern, but if you start doing things like, you know, let's say you take everything that's west of that lower building. And you drop the pavement, so yeah, it's either where the stripes, the loosely striped pavement, if you take a lot of that pavement away, chief, do you have an issue with being able to get your fire apparatus on the crushed stone?
No.
Okay, then I think we're in good shape.
Don't think it's sidewalks.
Yeah.
We're gonna have all those condos dumping people on the side and having them
Well,
all.
the sidewalks, I get it, you go out, and that's easy, we can run the sidewalks right into existing sites.
Are you thinking the sidewalks along the whole front?
No, so here's what we got. Across the street, there's a major development, 120 units with a commercial pad site. RIDOT has suggested a crossing point that they think is safe.
Before the red light.
It's going to be, like near Maple Root, so it's not far from your site. I think Director McGee's comment is suggesting that, hey, since there's a plan in the works now, they're gonna be likely receiving preliminary plan consideration next week, meaning that these plans, all of it is generally heading towards a firm state of design. They're dumping a crosswalk to the other side where there's not a sidewalk. I think Director McGee's comment is, hey, these two projects are timed. There is a sidewalk at Dollar Tree.
Correct, and it's just about where that proposed driveway was. So if we were bringing it across those, you know, your property line, at least that piece would be completed. And it would tie in so that we have no, especially getting that close to the intersection.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
that's
that's
been walking
their
the road.
sidewalk ended right here before it came in,
Yeah.
and this is all dirt coming across that.
So
I think we'd be looking for a sidewalk across the front of your property.
Yep.
Is that fair?
the whole,
Kevin?
the whole way?
Yep.
Yep.
Because it's not just about connectivity to the other sidewalk. He's trying to reach towards the west
So it's a main road.
to get where the crosswalk across Harkney Hill.
So we can have to do that on the front side too?
No,
No,
I don't think we're interested in sidewalks on Newsnack. It's honestly, there's not a lot of sidewalks around,
No.
but this is a rare moment where Dollar Tree has them. And there's a major development that's gonna have a crosswalk just on the other side of your property, so you represent a unique connection opportunity. And it at least gets pedestrians towards the corner.
Yeah.
There's not a lot else that they can connect to after that, to be honest. There's not sidewalks in the area.
I have a question, if I may. So I could be wrong, but I think the crown of the road is where everything slopes off to the edge.
Yep.
So I think today, there's no curb or anything, everything kind of
Yeah,
from the
probably.
center line of the road. So now we're creating a barrier.
I'm gonna work this,
I'm not sure.
that's the DOT's problem.
I guess we push it down.
That they have, it's a drainage issue that they have to deal with right now, safety is more important.
Okay.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, you have to go to RIDOT no matter what. You know, to get the curb cuts that you want, they might also say just the development of a site on their roadways. So when you permit with RIDOT, I think the idea is permit it with a sidewalk on the plan. That seem fair to everybody else?
Now, would this be considered a commercial use, you think, or industrial?
Industrial, the nature of the fact that, well, one, I don't think we have a heavy concern with the nature of the use. It's considered industrial because of where it is in our use code. It's under a category of uses under industrial. That's why you get triggered with this industrial buffer.
Hmm.
But again, I don't think we have concerns with considering relief to reducing that buffer where necessary. No one here is that worried about this use coming across as a nuisance to Dollar Tree. But I will say this, and this is worth you guys, kind of looking at closely. You're in an area of the town that's in a design overlay. The overlay suggests that there's certain standards we're looking to meet for aesthetic purposes. Your site is not one you normally expect a high level of aesthetic out of the building design, but there are standards you may need to meet. There are standards you may need to take relief from. I think we're comfortable. If you were asking me where I want the site to look good, it's on your front, it's on your front right of way. I don't think Proscape and I don't think Dollar Tree are gonna be pounding, the table that they want a big buffer in between. I think we could be talking about some nice landscaping. Maybe there's a row of trees or arborvitaes in between you and a Dollar Tree. But other than that, I think we want the fronts of the site to look good.
Yeah.
And that's really gonna help meet the intent of that design overlay, where we just want the site to look good from the right of way. We can work with you on that. There might be some pieces of
That's in
that.
my
that we
plan
might-
anyway. There'll be irrigation, trees, mulch beds, so that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a section of code that talks about standards and requirements for it, and there's some of it that you might not meet. It talks about wanting to know that there's no flat roofs. I don't know if you guys have a sense. You gave us a
Yeah.
slight elevation on that one. It's not a flat roof,
No,
the
it's
lower
not.
one.
No,
I don't know if you guys have a sense.
Keep right here.
That's why we were saying we want some elevations. We need to know if you need relief from some of our architectural design standards. To be honest, we don't need these buildings to look gorgeous. We'd like them to look nice from the street. And a lot of look nice from the street can be accomplished with some landscape. So we do consider it industrial use. We're not bothered by the use, but that does dictate a few of the ways we treat it. And, one of them is the buffers. So I think you've got some variances here. And really, it's up to you guys in the path of travel. I know, Andrew, you said you might still want to combine stages.
Yeah, if we're not too late.
You're welcome to.
Yeah.
Here's what it would look like, is that you could be in front of us for a master plan in November. But you could ask to combine stages at our October meeting. We can pre-app you guys October 23rd. You could ask to combine stages, and if you think you can design it quick enough, you could be in front of us for combined in November. Now, keep in mind, normally, a good consultant will tell you, if you've got variances, let's know where we stand with those. Master plans, the stage where you get a feel for, are they gonna give us the variances or not? I can tell you, I think we're gonna work with you. The only one is if you drop the two driveways.
Yeah.
I think we'll work with you on the rest. You could give us designs. If we say, hey, I need it to look a little different over here, we're probably working around the edges. You could be in front of us for combined approval in November. So that's one path of travel. I would just recommend in writing, get to me by tomorrow, an indication that you'd like to be a pre-app on October 23rd, and we can do that for the purposes of facilitating your request to combine at the next meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes. Any additional submittals of plans? I know the survey we still owe you.
I mean, there's a lot of pieces that we said we wanted at prelim. You'll see the comments in some of the TRC. So I mean, essentially, you know, we're gonna want building elevations. I know you've got us a pretty well worked out landscape plan already. We're gonna wanna know, what are you doing? You know, like, imagine you're gonna be asking for a variance for buffers, you know, your reliance on, hey, here's what we're giving you. We're not gonna give you 30 feet or 40 feet. We're gonna give you 10 feet, but we're gonna plant it this way. I think we'll work with you. If you want, because you're gonna be doing the firm engineering design, you wanna work with staff and give us concepts and initial ideas, and we can give you some feedback before you start doing heavy calculations. Do you have a lot of stormwater calculations you need to do for this, or is it pretty straightforward in your mind?
We've actually started,
Okay.
but we do need a, FDE stormwater permit.
Yeah.
So this is the primary area that we're proposing, stormwater to go. There will be some catch basins. Actually, there'll be some grading, some catch basins.
Yeah.
But it's gonna change a little bit. And exactly what you said, we didn't want to go too much further until we knew how you received
Yep.
the waiver variances that we were asking.
Again, I think if you design it the way you just penciled out, I don't think we have concerns with the rest of the variances. So if you want to give us initial drafts along the way,
Okay.
we can do our best to give you some comments and
Okay.
saying, hey, this is heading in the right direction.
Sure.
That way you can feel like when you show up for a full preliminary plan, scale of detail, you're not getting surprises. We would bring you back in front of us in November based on whatever design changes you have, and that's an opportunity for you. Even if there is a few course corrections, we can handle it on your way to a hearing.
Sounds fair enough.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments on this one? All right. You guys have any other thoughts, questions?
Not at the moment. Nope.
Great. So if they're heading for preliminary plan design, do you need any specifics that you want to see for stormwater? Or are you pretty comfortable with the way? Yeah. But you're pretty comfortable with where they're heading from a stormwater perspective?
Yep.
All right. And then you don't need state permits in hand for preliminary plan anymore, but generally you do want to be submitting. If you have contacts at RIDOT or RIDM, making sure is it's you have design changes. The last thing we all want to do is spin our wheels and then have them come back and give you a
Right.
design change.
Right.
That might cause you to come back in front of the board for final instead of it being administrative. So if you have contacts with RIDM or RIDOT, you can get these to them quickly and get some initial feedback if they're okay with your concepts. That's good to have a preliminary plan. Make sense?
Sounds good.
All right. I think we're all set with this one unless there's anything else. Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome, Brian. Andrew. Let's see if you. Is the applicant here for 1600 Flat River Road? Yes. Great. Feel free to join us at the table. We'll do that one next. Are you the engineer for them? I am the engineer. Anyway. And then the way we do it, have you seen a copy of the comments we've generated? Okay, so we're still gonna read them for the record.
Yep.
Here's something that you should be aware of. We can talk about it. It's basically, the removal of vegetation along the side technique does trigger a zoning violation.
Okay.
The idea is that we work with you as part of this application process, but it was important that that was noted for the record.
Okay.
Essentially, the removal of the buffer.
Yep.
You're gonna end up seeking relief through this process.
Yes.
So that would correct the violation.
Correct.
But that's technically on the record. So we
Yep.
wanted you to be aware and not be surprised by that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just read the agenda item and then we'll go right around the room. This is agenda item for proposed 9,000 square foot industrial building. This is for comments of the planning commission at 1600 Flat River Road. The applicant is seeking to construct a 9,000 square foot industrial building in the southeast corner of the lot. This application requires dimensional variances for the minimum required landscape buffer and minimum required distance between industrial and residential structures. We're gonna go around the table with comments from staff, then give you an opportunity to ask questions, what should I indicate them?
Yep.
Do we want to go the other way this time? Kevin, you want to
We
lead us
can,
off?
yeah, I got a very simple question. I don't see it, the spot located where the dumpster and the enclosure is, like, well, on this map.
We can add that in, yep.
You haven't had it, okay.
Okay. And this one is at master plan, so we don't have a high level of design detail. And then are you guys looking to stay at master for now? You're not looking to get complicated and.
No, we're just gonna do
combine
master, then we do.
stages? Yeah, and then this is headed for a hearing in November.
look forward to promoting industrial growth there in town. So,
Great, thanks. Mr. McGee, chief?
For the police department, we had no comments at this time for this, proposed project.
Great.
So I also had a comment, with the dumpsters is, it is unclear what trash collection areas exist on site. The new trash collection area is proposed for the new building. It should be shown on the next submission. It shall meet the requirements of section 1207 for zoning ordinance. And then I just said, please utilize the Filtrex sock in lieu of straw wattle on the site's front.
And then Josh is the commenter for planning.
So for planning, we have, planning staff encourage the applicant to explore shifting the proposed building to the west to reduce the variances being sought. Request the proposed evergreen buffer be extended along the southern property along the trail. Yeah, that's the bike trail. Request the height of the proposed evergreen plantings be increased to 8 feet, specifically in the area east of the proposed building. A landscape plan addressing all components of zoning article 17 landscaping will be required at prelim stage. Request to see existing trees along the eastern property line marked on a plan, approximate location okay, with a note that they will, with a note if they will remain, and address the locations of proposed new trees to supplement around the western edge of the existing trees outside their drip line. A lighting plan will be required at the preliminary plan stage to meet town code and reduce impacts to the abutting residential properties. A report or statement demonstrating the proposed use will be compliant with zoning article 7 industrial performance standards will be required at the preliminary stage. Indicate a specific land use the proposed building will be dedicated to. Please refer to zoning section 255, 600, table 6-1, schedule of district use regulations for different uses that are allowed in the industrial zone. Provide parking code references and calculations on the plan. Request height of the proposed building. Seeking clear and additional justification on the reasons for seeking variances. And building elevations and or renderings will be required at preliminary stage.
Chief Brown?
Yeah, commercial storage of the type, and based on that type, the building could require sprinklers.
So those are the comments that we have, and based on that, you guys have an opportunity to ask any questions, provide any additional context from use the meeting for any clarity you might need if you're going to make any changes.
We did get a kind of, so we do have profile views of the building.
Great.
And for the setback for the building, the biggest issue right now is trying to get the fire trucks into the adjacent property. If you look on the plans here. This fire truck has to kind of come in and kind of make it kind of a wide angle, so that's why we're trying to push it down as far as we can. That's what we need, that as much relief as we need.
Gotcha. Do you believe there's any opportunity to shift the building towards the west?
There might be, but it's pretty close right now.
Okay.
Right now I'm using like a standard ADJO fire truck. If you guys have specific fire truck we have, I can use ADJO, American, yep. So, but if you guys have like a different size, maybe it's smaller than the typical one or something like that, if you could give that to me, I could put that in and maybe we could reduce it a little bit that way.
Yeah, that would be helpful. We know, it's understood that two sites kind of work together,
Yes,
and it's understood that I think you have cars that end up parking kind of right near where that property line is.
yes.
But if there's an opportunity to shift everything a little bit to the west, that's good.
Yep.
Also, if you can't shift anything to the west and there's specific design constraints you're up against, then we want to hear about it. One, you should use that as your rationale for seeking relief.
Correct.
Imagine that we can't really write the relief for you. We don't know your rationale for why you need to design the site this way. So if we're gonna consider relief, we need to have you guys make a really good case for it.
For this, how wide do you want this? So,
I think what you provided on the eastern side of the property, if you continued that, I think that would be sufficient and ideal in our mind.
okay. I just wanna also note, when we're doing the zoning, this is its own kind of zone, it's like a greenway.
Yeah, we get it. Not a required buffer.
Right.
That was a nice to have, not a need to have,
Okay.
but. I mean, while we're here looking at, basically trying to mitigate what is a new commercial, what a new industrial building near residential. I think we're willing to work with you on some of what you're providing. Which
Yep.
For us, it was like, plant a nice screen. We don't need 50 feet of buffer. We need you to plant a nice screen.
Sure.
It's also just nice to know that you're also gonna mitigate from the greenway, which it's a bike trail, it's a public property. People are on that. It's a nice, beautiful resource. It'd be nice to give some screening to that too.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
So that makes sense to me. Josh, do you have any other follow-up questions on what we got?
No,
Yeah, so I mean, you've seen all the comments.
Yep.
I think the big thing is that I don't think we've got heavy concerns with what you're doing, but the big issue here in our minds is you're building a new industrial building right near single-family residential.
Yep.
We just want to have good evidence. You've got a nice screen there. It's
Okay.
just a visual, screen for us.
Yep.
We're, I think, less worried about the width, but your rationale for reducing that width is gonna be the value you're providing with that screen.
Correct.
Again, I think the big thing that we need here is that, the current variance descriptions of the rationale for your relief.
Yep.
It doesn't really give us much.
Okay.
So just, try to put some arguments in there of why the building needs to be where it is, the good things you're doing to mitigate the visual impacts, make some good arguments, and I don't think we're gonna have a huge issue with it, but
Okay.
I mean, those are gonna be the issues. I do imagine when we notice this and we're bringing it to a meeting, we'll probably have a few abutters that are gonna come and gonna wanna know, what's happening.
We've already talked to the two abutters down here.
Oh, okay.
They seem to be pretty much on board with the screenings.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That's helpful. We don't ever mind when you guys try to work it out with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're asking to increase it to 8 feet in that area.
Okay.
And then there's a handful of trees there, so we didn't want you to knock down trees
No,
for
no,
the
no,
sake
well-
of planting this, but you can understand, I mean, some of the trees that are there might not provide
The
a
correct
great screen on the
Yeah.
ground. They provide a nice overhang.
Yep.
That's why we wanted to kind of, where you need to, you might need to bump a little bit of that line of trees out to
Yep,
work around the
absolutely.
existing.
Understood.
Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Great.
Alright.
Any other comments or questions on this one? All right,
Yeah, what are you gonna store?
What am I gonna, what?
What are you gonna store?
Right now, it's just gonna be like, I think the one tenant is just, kind of equipment, he wants to do a carnival, like type rides that, they're traveling carnival. I think that's what he wants to store in there. So, it's nothing hazardous or anything.
Access material.
Nope,
we've got a use code for it that's generally what we've been using for this kind of thing. It's like a flex space.
Yeah.
And we get it. I mean, every once in a while, it's like for a contractor.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's storing some equipment, maybe every once in a while, someone, bangs a hammer in there, but you're not really looking to do manufacturing. in there, right?
nope, just
So-
this equipment store.
There's a use code, and I think we just asked for you to identify it, because
Yes.
what we don't want is for you to say we're doing something and then show up and then the building's got heavy manufacturing in it, and so we want to identify what's the use.
Sure.
There's a use code we could point you to, but ultimately that also needs to come from you guys.
Understood.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Thank you very much. What was your name?
John.
John?
John.
John, all right. Thank you, John. All right, moving right along. The next item for business is the proposed gas station convenience store. This is a pre-application for a minor land development. The address is 6 Reservoir Road. The applicant is seeking to construct a 4,824 square foot convenience store with 7-Eleven as the brand, with 6 fuel pump stations on the corner of Reservoir Road and Newsnick Hill Road with associated utilities, infrastructure, and landscaping. The proposed use is not currently allowed in the general business zone, nor is the use of a gas station allowed anywhere in Coventry according to current code. So this has some path of travel in front of it for allowing the use. You guys have seen how we've been doing it. We're gonna first go around with our comments, I believe. Are you Reggie? Hi, Reggie. Reggie, you've seen some of the comments, probably most of them. So it won't be a big surprise, but we still read them because this is a public meeting. Read them for the record and read them for the video. And then we can jump right in. As a pre-app, it's understood you're at an earlier stage.
Sure.
So, Chief, do you want to start us off with this one if you're ready?
Yes, I have.
Planning staff, comments. Planning staff notes that the use of gasoline service stations is not currently allowed in town. The applicant is considering two different pathways to achieve this requested use. One, a use variance application to be decided by the planning commission under a unified development review, or two, a zoning amendment to zoning section 255-600, table 6-1, schedule of district use regulations to be decided by the town council. Planning staff encourages the applicant to utilize the zoning amendment process. A 20-foot landscape buffer is required along the edges of property that abut residential zones per zoning section 255, chapter 1730. A 10-foot landscape strip is required along the edges of property that abuts streets per zoning section 255, 740E. A landscape plan addressing all components of zoning article 17 landscaping will be required at the preliminary stage. A traffic study will be required at the preliminary stage and may be subject to peer review. A lighting plan will be required at the preliminary stage to meet town code and reduce impacts to the abutting residential properties. The property is within a special planning overlay district and is required to follow the standards in zoning section 255, chapter 530, or alternatively seek variances. Planning notes the parcel does not have town sewer currently, but will be required to hook up as the line to the high school is completed. Provide parking code references and calculations on the plan. Building elevations and or rendering will be required at preliminary plan stage. Planning department would note that use such as a fuel station requires care when in close proximity to residential. And then one comment we have, or a question we have received from the public on more than one occasion is to request the hours of operation. There is concern that it will be 24 hours.
That's correct.
We'll keep going with comments.
Plan C1, for zoning ordinance section 1210C, loading space shall be required. Next comment, a town of Coventry commercial sewer connection application will be required for the proposed sewer connection. There are currently two options for connection. One, there is a privately owned force main in Reservoir Road. An agreement will need to be made with the owner of the line. And two, the town will be installing a new gravity main in Reservoir Road that services the high school. This project is currently in design and is scheduled to be completed in spring of 26. A sewer lateral will be installed for the subject property as part of this project. The town prefers that the applicant tie into the proposed gravity line. Next comment, submission of a town of Coventry soil erosion sediment control application will be required for the project, and for stormwater management shall be provided for the site and meet state and town requirements.
So there's traffic safety concerns regarding the entry and exit onto New Snack Hill Road, especially during the school start and dismissal times. Possibly consider a similar design as located at Cumberland Farms on the London Turnpike. Whereas they like to take a right when they're coming out of the gas station onto New Snack. might alleviate some traffic issues, especially with the way it's currently at, when they're lining up on Newsnet, they turn onto Reservoir, make a left-hand turn, it goes past even where the turn area is, so might cause problems down there.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. McGee.
And that was my concern, that are in the comments, is the right turn only onto New St. Clair Road, because cars coming out of trying to cross forward into traffic at the bike is going to create a safety issue, especially with the high school getting in around, so I agree.
So those are all the comments at this time. I mean, at this point, feel free, this is a pre-app. We understand this is early stage. You don't have any formal decision in front of you at this point. The comments are actually directed so that they might end up to me, the administrative officer, where it might end up being a staff review. Or if there's variants that are needed, then it might end up getting in front of one of our boards. These comments might end up in front of the boards. But really, before we even get to a project and an actual specific site project review, you know, we need to pave the way for the use of gas stations. I don't think the town has concerns with allowing gas stations in some way, shape, or form in this general business zone. It's just a matter of getting it right. And I would note, I mean, that'll take some time for us to review. I think within a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I think we could have an approach to this that we'd be comfortable with, but it likely is introducing some potential regulations to ensure some distances between gas pumps and residential properties or streets or a few pieces like that. But this would be the first time that the town is considering allowing gas stations as a by right use in town. That had previously been allowed for a special use permit, which is a discretionary process. So we don't have a problem with considering it. I don't think it's certainly not a waste of anyone's time. But you know, at the end of the day, we'll know where we stand with what does the code look like, and then we could take a project application and move it forward through whatever that code looks like. So does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts, reflections at this point?
No, I mean, I think this whole forum is super helpful. We have a bunch of projects and very few towns have TRCs that we've dealt with. So having all you here is really helpful because most often than not, most folks aren't in sync. And when we go from one department to the next, there's always a bottleneck because early on, everyone's not talking. So this format is super helpful. I mean, Josh and Doug have been super helpful giving us some feedback, and we want that feedback now. Because if there's a showstopper, we want to know about it today versus speaking with you guys 6 months from now. But we're excited about this use. We're 7-Eleven's preferred developer. They're not easy to find sites with. The fact that they want to be here speaks volumes to this location. They're a mega tenant. Even if they have a franchisee, as my tenant, they stay on the hook for the entire lease term, which runs for up to 35 years. So the fact that they want to be here speaks volumes to Coventry. It's obviously a great town. We do a lot of development, both commercial and residential. So we hope this is a catalyst to do more, but we think it's a super logical location for gas. This is their new prototype. So that whole old red brick model is kind of gone at this point. It's a nice modern look and feel. We spend real money in the build out. We own the cost. It's our budget. We own the real estate. They pre-commit in a long-term lease. And we look at typically 7 to 10 sites a week with them on. So again, just the fact that they want to put their stamp on Coventry, I think speaks volumes to the town. I think the demographics are great. I think the town's underbuilt from a commercial standpoint, and they want to put this new prototype. So we're excited, and obviously this is a super early step, but a really important step. So.
Gotcha. Sounds good, yeah, and your answer to the question is would this be a 24-hour?
It would be 24 hours. Frankly, they do a lot of nighttime traffic, passive hours, so for them, 24 hours is very much required.
Good to hear. More snowplow when they have a place to go for coffee at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's good.
It might be a mixed bag from all perspectives on the 24-hour, but you guys see that this is the market for a 24-hour site here in terms of, you know, its location, the services it will provide. And fair enough. I think, Josh, did you happen to print out the comment that we received, the email that I forwarded you?
Yes, it should be on the last page of all of your stuff.
Might have it. Oh, yeah. I found it. Thank you. So, this is worth reading, and it's because there's a public comment. again, this is a forum in which generally we don't take public comments live time at the meeting, but someone's allowed to forward it for our attention and transparency, and I'm just going to read it. This is a comment that came in today at 9:30 a.m. Hi, I'm opposed to the changing of the zoning to allow a gas station on 6 Reservoir Road. Impacts to increased traffic, noise. These stores have 24/7 operations and lighting on the residential neighborhood. The intersection is already busy and dangerous, especially in the morning and afternoon when the high school traffic and buses back up onto Route 3. Also, how is tanker truck going to get in and out of the busy intersection? Concern on environmental and water well issues if a tank leaks. It should also be mentioned that years back, there was a gas tank leak at the old Shell station, Hopkins Hill and Route 3, now a new restaurant. This parcel is across the street from the South Branch, Patuxent Sub-River Basin wetlands as shown in the Coventry GIS maps. So just want you to be aware of public comment that was rendered on the project. This is really going to take two paths. One is that if we're doing a zone change, the town's going to look at it for across the whole general business district. You know, this would not be a case where we would kind of give you a spot zone and say this is the one property that gets a different gas. We would look at it through all title. I think it's absolutely a good idea for the town to find a path to allow gas stations in our general business on title. There historically have been a path for it. There currently isn't one. I think it's important to bring it back. We just want to get that right. And the kind of regulations around gas stations we want to get right. I imagine that you'll be in front of the council for that. To some degree, the council process is a bit separate from your site design. We're looking at the whole GB zone. I know you have a project in mind, but you know, they're going to want to look at this as a use change for all of general business. I think what you've given us would just come along for the ride as like informational purposes. I'm going to guide the council and everyone. We're not writing our zoning for this specific site. We're writing our zoning for the whole general business. But I think most people just want to know the person who's seeking this does have an idea in mind. So, you know, there is a vision beyond this zone change for at least one parcel. And it's just good for people to be aware of that, be transparent. Does that all make sense to you? All right. Yeah. So I envision that we're going to do a little bit of research. You've initiated the request to change the zone. Staff will begin doing the research. We're going to be looking at like what are the other gas stations in our general business look like? What kind of issues do they have? What are some other regulations from neighboring communities we might want to look at for good separation distances? I think we're headed towards considering allowing it by right, but with some additional considerations for separation distances. That makes sense? Great. Any other thoughts, questions on this one? That being said, I think that we've completed our business.
Thanks so much, everyone.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, unless there's anything else, I will consider this meeting of the Technical Review Committee adjourned at 2:31. Thank you very much.